Hello and welcome to a special video with the Essendon Royals. We're with Matt J from Nicholas James Lawyers as we celebrate Nicholas James Lawyers round this week. Essendon Royals taking on Pascoe Vale. A great opportunity for the club to recognise the incredible support that we receive from Nicholas James Lawyers, not just this year but over the last better part of a decade as well. Matt J's here. He's the main man looking after all things property at Nicholas James Lawyers. So Matt, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So tell me a little bit about what Nicholas James Lawyers does in the property law space. Obviously a super technical and dynamic space, but what's your sort of favourite part of helping clients through a property transaction?
My favourite part is basically being a steady hand in a sometimes complex transaction. Basically buying property, selling property is a big milestone for first home buyers, for developers subdividing or purchasing a commercial development. So it is basically being that trusted advisor who has enough knowledge to look at all aspects of that client's particular needs and then tailoring that approach and providing that advice so that short and long-term goals can be achieved.
And the client education piece is obviously something very important to you guys at Nicholas James Lawyers. Like you mentioned, different clients have different needs, but why is it so important, particularly for your first home buyer type clients, that client education piece is so important?
Well, basically with a first home buyer, it can be a daunting process. So basically with a first home buyer client, what we're trying to do is take them through the steps slowly, making sure that we cover all aspects of that transaction, from stamp duty, exemptions to first home buyers, grants if they apply. Whereas with a developer, as we touched on, we have to obviously make sure that their, purchasing structure, for example, is set up. So there's more commercially focused advice surrounding that. Yeah. So on one aspect for first home buyer, it's just reassuring them that everything is going to go smoothly, that we're going to settle. Whereas with a developer, we have to make sure that we take into account all aspects, their actual purchasing structure, their setup, and then obviously with their sales, we've got GST implications, we've got a few taxes that have been introduced in Victoria. So we have to make sure that we give them that whole sort of advice, that broader advice.
Yeah, excellent. And I noticed on your website bio, you're multilingual as well. So you help clients who are speaking Croatian and German. I think that's an asset that's across the board with Nicholas James Lawyers, lots of sort of multilingual practitioners. How does that sort of help you engage with buyers from different backgrounds?
Well, basically for buyers and for clients, they do prefer to obviously speak in their own native language, just because that gives them a sense of ease. And it's also a cultural aspect as well. Yeah. So they know they're going to be looked after, and it's basically not just translating into their language. It's basically having that connection, that deeper connection, saying, look, we'll look after you. We'll be able to explain legal terms in your language so that you're comfortable.
Yeah.
And obviously helps with not having to engage third-party translators, interpreters, etc.
100%. So I guess from your perspective, Matt, what makes NJL sort of stand out from the rest with respect to the way you approach client services?
So basically we treat every client differently. So we tailor our approach based on their needs. It's not just another matter or another file. We do try to, from the onset, see where they're located. So a lot of our clients are obviously local, interstate and from overseas. And some clients prefer to have that face-to-face interaction, whereas every other client, they prefer to have it online. So what we do, because we offer services both in Victoria and New South Wales, for example, we then tend to obviously can offer them a service where if they're selling Victoria, they can buy in New South Wales and have the same legal representative. Makes the whole process a lot easier. So we tailor our approach based on the client's obviously location, their need, ease of access to obviously emails and the internet. But if they do prefer to have everything signed face-to-face, if they're not comfortable using online platforms, then we obviously get them in, have a meeting. We've just opened our new office in Moonee Ponds. So, it's really good to obviously get them in and making sure that we service them depending on their needs.
Yeah, excellent. And now, obviously, I know Nicholas James Lawyers also has a presence in Sunbury. Do you want to talk to us about how you're servicing clients out in the west of Melbourne?
Yes, so basically our Sunbury office opened up, I think 4 years ago now, and we have about, I think we're up to 9 employees in the Sunbury office. So basically it is mostly for conveyancing. However, we do also do wills and estates from the Sunbury office and all other aspects on a by appointment basis. So we do, have a presence there, and we, nice and busy.
Yep.
So it's a nice office. It's located on Brook Street.
Yep.
In Sunbury, right next to NAB.
Yep. And you touched on there, obviously, Nicholas James Lawyers does so much more than just property law. As someone who works in the property space, how good is it for you to be able to refer your clients internally to other parts of the business to help them with, where they need their will redone after buying a property? How good is that for you to be able to offer that to your clients?
It just makes it a lot easier, just because we are a team. We know how, obviously, if there's any issues, we know who to delegate to. We know that who is available to take on that matter, especially if it's an urgent matter and the client requires an urgent response. So, from my aspect, I tend to act for purchasers and borrowers, whereas we have a whole other team that acts for lenders and provides the mortgage advice. And then we have, the commercial aspect where we set up structures, joint venture agreements, shareholders agreements. Then you have, if there's an issue that arises, we have a whole litigation department. And as you obviously noted, after a client purchases a property, as it's a massive milestone. So what we then try to do and say, well, you need to update your will. So we have a wills and estates department. So it sort of flows all nicely together.
Yeah.
And it obviously makes it a lot easier when they're already familiar with our firm, they're already familiar with a person that they dealt with. And then we can basically just keep it in-house and, work seamlessly and offer that additional service.
Yeah. And obviously, Nicholas James Lawyers had a long-standing relationship with Essendon Royals. You're very much embedded in the community. Can you talk to, I guess, why these sort of community relationships are so important to Nicholas James Lawyers?
It shows that obviously we care about community. We obviously love the soccer. I know myself being involved in supporting any sort of sports organisation such as the Essendon Royals. It just brings the community together. I myself, I know when Croatia made it to the finals of the World Cup, I was lucky enough to go overseas for 3 days. Basically packed up my bag and left on the same day. And so I understand how, supporting such a sporting events and sporting organisation can bring the community together and basically sharing in each other's success.
Yeah, perfect.
Ultimately.
Well, Matt, thank you so much for coming in and sharing a bit more about Nicholas James Lawyers with us. Look forward to seeing you there on Friday night.
No worries, see you there.